How many of us have those, and we'll air quote them, friends that we turn around and we say, oh, I'm thinking of starting my new business. And they suddenly jump up and they go, Jay, you're going to lose your ass there, mate. That is never going to happen. You are never going to make money of that. You shouldn't be doing that, fella. And then what stupid decision do you do by listening to them?
Welcome to Hollywood Real, where my inspiring guests share the stories behind their success and ideas to help you thrive in every part of your life. I'm your host, Jay Menez, and today's guest began his unlikely journey as a whiskey-guzzling East London bricklayer with dreams of getting rich. He eventually made his way to Hong Kong to strike it rich in finance, but didn't last in his one-day career as a stockbroker. Instead, he found a passion and quickly discovered how to make other people's dreams come true. All of that led Steve Sims to create the Bluefish, an ultra-exclusive concierge service creating unique experiences for anyone, not just the rich and famous. In fact, Forbes and Entrepreneur magazines called Steve Sims the real-life Wizard of Oz. And he's the author of Bluefishing, the art of making things happen. Today, he connects influential entrepreneurs and hosts life-changing events through his mentorship programs called The Speakeasy and The Distillery. As you might imagine, Steve's got a lot of stories. Most he can't tell, but he does share some great ones. We'll learn how he decodes what people really want, his philosophy on emotional business, and much more. You're going to learn a ton from Steve. Let's go check it out now. Enjoy. Steve, Forbes magazine called you the real-life Wizard of Oz. Every time I encounter you, whether it's one-on-one or at a large event, I can't help but notice this magnetic sort of charisma that you seem to radiate. And that's true. I'm curious. Often we have a hard time trying to pinpoint what charisma is. And I'd like to know what it is for you and how do you develop it?
Well, it's very nice of you to say, for a start. And if you were 6 foot tall, blonde and female, I may be a lot more appreciative with the remark. But I don't think I have charisma. I think I have transparency. I think I'm easy to understand, and therefore I attract people because I'm not challenging. You go to an event, you go to a networking event, a school event, a business event, a social event, and everyone's trying to be the best possible example of who they pretend they want to be. I turn up as me. There's no onion. This is it. There's no layers. This is as good as you get. You meet me for 2 minutes and you know everything you need to know about me. So I don't think I'm complicated. I don't think I'm challenging. So I find people want to talk to me because I'm not upsetting or stressful to them. And I think today, especially with social platforms, I don't want to say it's refreshing, but it's rare because you meet people that you've met on social or you've chatted through Facebook or LinkedIn or any of these platforms, MySpace if it's still around, and you get an idea of who they are. And it's like meeting your heroes and meeting your superstars and meeting your actors. When you meet them, you find out they're a different person. Well, with me, I'm a East London whiskey drinking biker that wears black t-shirts and should work out more. That's it. It's as uncomplicated as that. I think that's why I attract the right kind of people.
Yeah, and maybe that's one of the key essential ingredients to charisma, is the
Maybe
authenticity.
It is. I think it is, and I was very careful to avoid that word because I hate it. We should see authenticity as just something that's normal. It's like me saying, "Hey, congratulations, you breathe." Authenticity we should have as something that's just taken for granted. I've met this person. He's authentic. He's normal. He's real. But no, we spend so much time nowadays trying to be someone that we're not, that when we meet someone that is authentic, we're astonished, we're startled, and we revere it and congratulate them for being who they bloody well are. And I think that's a bit sad. There you go. That was my soapbox for 2 seconds there.
Brilliant. The mind of Steve Sims.
Yeah, it's small, but it's there.
Yeah, so transparency is a better word.
I prefer transparency because I'm also a great believer in how intelligent your gut is. You know, you come along, you meet someone and your eyeballs are telling you, well, they've got an expensive watch. You know, I saw them get out of a Ferrari and, oh yeah, they're wearing an Armani suit or, you know, a Kissin suit and they look the part. They must be successful. Yet something in your stomach is telling you something's off. Nowadays, we're trusting too many things with our eyes. Yet if something's off in your stomach, trust your stomach. If it's off in your stomach, it's more than likely off. So I believe that when you got that transparency, you meet someone and you go, well, he's got a Ferrari, but he's leased it because he can't afford to buy it outright because he wants to drive a Ferrari. I can accept that, you know? And so I think people should try and be more transparent than they should be authentic.
Your book, Bluefishing, The Art of Making Things Happen, you know, we have known each other for quite a while, so I know your backstory, and I'd like you to share that with our audience also. But what I'd really like to know here is that for somebody who makes things happen, the art of connection is a key part of that, I see. How did that develop over your career? Can you take us back to kind of the early days when you didn't have that?
Yeah, it's not that the art of connection is a large part. It's the art of connections is everything. It's the only thing I have. Anybody outside of what I do and who I am could replicate what I do if they knew the right people to call and if they had the credibility to call those people. But they don't have the relationships because nowadays we're not focused on the relationships. Now, you don't have to go back too far. If you go back 15 years, you know, pre-iPad and touchscreen, all those kind of things, if you wanted to talk to someone, you went and knocked on their door, phoned them up, saw them. And we come from a period of communication. And in that communication, you're in a bar and you tell a joke and it's inappropriate, okay? And I didn't know it was inappropriate to you, and you've kind of given me this little look and I've gone, oh, sorry, pal, did that bother you? And you went, well, you know, I don't kind of like that because you may not know, but that is my religion or that is who I'm married to. And you, sorry, buddy. And you've got that instant response to what you've said. And I'm from East London. I walk into a bar and I say something that's wrong to the wrong person. I know I've said the wrong thing because I'm wearing their knuckles on my nose. That's what we've got. And you, from your background, you know how to communicate. Now we don't. Now we throw a statement out over Instagram or Facebook, and it offends people. And we don't know it offends them until we possibly run into them 6 months later when they forgot what it was that we said that was inappropriate, but they remember we said something that was wrong and they don't want to talk to us because of it. And we can't repair that relationship because we didn't know what it was. The bottom line of it is relationships are becoming very challenging to have and are everything we need to focus on having. We've got a situation now where building up a relationship and communicating with someone are the only things you can't download an app for. I could download an app to build a bridge. I can't download an app to build a relationship. Yet the relationships are the ones that open doors. The relationships are the ones that pick us up when we're down. The relationships are there when we turn around and go, hey, I'm looking at getting into this business. How do I do it? What's my downfalls? Where did you scrape your knee that I can avoid? Those are what relationships are. And as a doorman, I saw frontline the way people changed their persona before they were walking up to the meathead on the door, okay? And I was the meathead that had to be intimidating while at the same time trying to welcome them into the club. It was always a tough line. But I knew that it wasn't going to be everything for me. I used that front line of very gritty, earthy communication and interaction to learn how to negotiate with people. You could have a few boys come up and you would be like, hey boys, how you doing tonight? You're going to have a good bit of fun? You're not going to give me any trouble, are you? And you could have a smile on your face. And they were like, we'll be fine until we've had a couple of beers. And I'm like, oh, great, all right. You could have a bit of a laugh with them. And you got some people up that thought they were something special and they came up and they tried to tip the door and you'd be like, evening. Have a good night, sir. You knew who to react to and how to react to them quickly. You want to see great skills? You go to a bar and you watch the barmaid or the barman. They'll see these people over here that are referred to as sir and madam. They're referred to these people over here going, hey girls, you're out for a good... They know how to react to people real fast. And I learned that skill on the door. And from there, I was able to get into what people really wanted and not what they actually said. From there, I was just trying to find an industry that skill set worked, and I couldn't. And I invented it in the form of a fixer, a guy that could get anything. You know, you needed a car by the weekend, I know people. You wanted a museum shut down, I know who to call. Before you knew it, I became this international concierge that now does all those amazing things. But it's all the relationships. It's that first bit of knowing who to call with the credibility that they will answer you and help you. That's a relationship.
Yeah, I totally agree. In these days of social media, everything's on the smartphone. You don't have those body language and tone of voice cues that we used to have.
Yeah.
Where you can measure somebody and get that instant feedback, right? And like you said, that's the cause of a lot of misunderstanding that can sometimes just fester and go for a long period of time, and you don't even know it happened.
No, well, how many times do you have an argument with like your wife or something, and she's in the mood with you, and you're like, oh, what did I do wrong? What did I? Now, the lucky thing is you're in a confined environment, so you have to get over it. But how many times do you get in a mood with each other, and then after a couple of days, you kind of forget what the argument was about. You just know you're in a mood with each other. And that happens to us all. The downside about being on the other side of the planet, of the internet, of a social platform, is you don't get that ability to actually communicate and get it flushed out of the way. You just know that you don't like that person, but you can't remember why it is. And it could have purely and simply because of confusion over a term, tonality, or whatever way you actually spoke about something that rubbed them up the wrong way. And they could have even been in a bad mood. If you go into a pub and you got your mate with you, and your mate just found out that his wife's having an affair, you don't try telling him dirty jokes and that kind of thing. You console him because you can respond to him. But when you're sending something out on the internet and you're putting it up on social and you're making statements and you're thinking, oh, I'm brilliant because I got 400 people liked that comment, it could have rubbed up your mate the wrong way because for that one moment, it was inappropriate to him because he was already in a sensitive place. The topic of what you choose to laugh at may have been something that was related to him for that 1 millisecond, and now you don't get on and you don't know why. And he probably can't remember either.
It's really true, right, that people don't remember what you said. They remember how you made them feel.
Bingo, you said it smarter than me. It's all to do with the emotional content. And it's all to do with triggers. I've often said that if you can remember the price of something in your house, then it wasn't a value. But if you turn around and someone and you go, oh, I really like the watch. And they go, yeah, I was in the south of France, and bang, it evokes a memory, it triggers an emotion. That's when these things become heirlooms, they become a part of you, they become stories. It's like being in the car and suddenly a tune comes on and you think, oh, my first girlfriend, oh, when I got my dog, he used to dance to that tune. That's why music is so important to us, because it evokes an emotion. And I think you never want to operate a transactional business. You want to operate an emotional one. Whatever you're selling, serving, or providing, what is the emotion it triggers? And if you can focus on that trigger, then you've got a loyal client.
Yeah, I've heard you say a lot of times that you rarely give people what they ask for. You give them what they truly desire. And that takes a little bit of detective work on your part.
Yeah, I don't think I said I don't always. I think I said I never. I've never given anything to someone that they asked for. I've given them what they wanted and what they needed, but they just didn't tell me. And I've always said that you've got to unlock your internal Indiana Jones, your internal Sherlock Holmes, because if you walk up to someone and you go, hey, you've got $1 billion, you can do anything you want to do. What is it you want to do? They will never give you the right answer first. They will give you the answer that makes them sound cooler, more protected. They won't give you the vulnerable answer. They'll turn around and they go, oh, I'd buy a mansion and a Lamborghini and have a swimwear model competition in my back garden because it sounds cool to a pair of guys, okay? What they may want to do is retire to a sheep farm in Scotland. But they don't want to tell you that because they don't want you knowing what's really important to them. So when someone tells you something, and we actually talk about it, not a plug for the book, but it's there, we actually talk about asking why 3 times. Because the first answer where they go about the Lamborghinis and the swimwear, you go, that's great, Jay, that'd be brilliant. Why do you want to do that then? And that makes them question it. And 9 times out of 10, they go, I don't know, maybe not the swimwear, but the Lamborghini. Really? That's important to you? Why the Lamborghini? And before you know it, you find out that him and his dad used to go to a local store that sold Lamborghinis, and that Lamborghini has an emotional trigger for him. You get down to it. So I always say, ask why 3 times. That will get down to actually the core. People will tell you their social security number, the last time they had sex, their religion, how much money they got in the bank account. Why? Because those things are all factual. Getting down to your core of what makes you tick, what you really want to do with your life, what you're most vulnerable, do you really want to experience because it means so much to you? Most people don't want to be that vulnerable. They're going to keep that inside and give you the answer that makes them sound cool.
It requires a bit of establishing that connection before you can even get somebody to that point where they'll open up to you.
Yeah, it does. And I think that's where the transparency comes through. I'm here to give you more interesting cocktail stories. Now, how are we going to make you more interesting? Bang, straight in. I'm going to charge you a lot of money, giving you something that you're going to wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning and say to yourself, I can't believe I did that. And somewhere in that story, you're going to remember a bald-headed British guy that actually helped you do it. I'm very easy to understand in what it is that motivates me and why I do things. And 90% of the time, people are wrong when they think it's the money. There are big dollar signs floating around with the stuff that I do. But it's the reason behind that I want to unlock. It's that emotional content that actually is my preferred currency. Knowing that I will bump into these people, and it happens. As I travel the world, I'll bump into people and they'll hug me because I gave them that story. I gave them that content. I gave them that trigger that every now and then they'll listen to a tune, they'll touch something, they'll smell something, and they'll go, do you remember when we did this in front of David? Do you remember when we did this and went down to see the Titanic? Do you remember when we were playing drums with Guns N' Roses? Me. It's me that actually created that trigger, and no one can take it away from them. You can lose your car, you can lose the shirt off your back, but you can't lose your emotions and memories.
I found you to be a brilliant storyteller, and it supports a lot of who you are. Can you tell me a story about one time, an example, where you encountered a client who asked for one thing and you ended up delivering something completely different?
Oh, every single one. Where do we pick? Probably the one, most of my stories I can't tell you, okay? Because as we already know, I work for some of the most affluent, most powerful people in the world. I also work for a lot of clients that promote what they got up to by making it sound like they were invited, and it was me that arranged the invitation. So sometimes I'm not there to reveal that I was the man behind the curtain.
No names.
No names. So, and a lot of the stories, for that reason, I can't reveal. But there have been a fair few that have become very public, and probably one of the ones that's become most public that still gives me goosebumps was the, as you know, the museum in Florence, which was probably a very good example of what the client asked for and what he got that was so far out of tune, but was definitely more within what he desired. So I had a client in Europe that wanted to go and have dinner in Florence. That was it. My entire parameter was to provide him a restaurant that was uber exclusive for him and his fiance and her friend and the parents. And he wanted it to be somewhere that was just somewhere that no one else could get to. Well, the trouble is Florence doesn't have that. The idea of a precocious membership-only restaurant is reserved for England and America. But the whole idea of that, you go into a restaurant in Florence, ask for a table of 2, don't be surprised if you're sat on a table of 8 and there just happens to be two seats. And by the end of the night, you've got an enlarged family. That's the whole point of Tuscan living. So we had to give him something that met what he wanted in his head and not what he said. So we shot high. Now, the old saying, if you shoot for the moon, on the way down, you'll grab some stars. Well, I always go moonshot. So I thought, where can I give him as a location in Florence that is perfectly and undeniably Florence and could not be replicated anywhere else? If you did it in one of the churches, hey, that could be in Poland, it could be in France, it could be in Spain. You wouldn't know unless you knew the Renaissance art of that period. I could have done it in the Piazza, but again, that could have been replicated anywhere else. So I had to do it in somewhere that you went, that's only Florence. So we asked the Accademia, which is the museum that houses Michelangelo's David, if we could shut it down and have a dinner party in there for 6 people, actually for 5. And we went through a little bit of negotiation, and we had some friends phone in to validate that I wasn't a complete whack job and that this was what I did. And we got them on board and they allowed it to happen. And then once that had happened, then I wanted to add a little bit more sizzle to it. And how could I do that? Well, I was very fortunate to get my friend Andrea Bocelli to come in and serenade them during dinner. So my clients had dinner. There was supposed to be 5 of them. His fiance brought along another friend, another tag along. So there were 6 people that ended up having dinner at the feet of Michelangelo's David. Halfway through dinner, Andrea Bocelli comes in and serenades them. Now that was giving the client exactly what he asked for, but at a level that he had not perceived. Now he had the wherewithal to be able to afford it. And during the negotiations, I said to him, I have something that's pretty out there, but it's going to be costing you X. But will you believe me? And he believed me. So that's where the credibility and the reputation comes in. Also the transparency, knowing that this is a guy that can. And if he says, I can, oh, your budget was 30 grand, but I've got something that's going to make you dance at 1 o'clock in the morning and it's going to cost you 3 times that amount. I've got the credibility where people go, oh, okay, I don't know what you're up to, but I'm going to take that. And so that's where the credibility and the reputation comes down. But that's a prime example of giving something what they asked for, but just at my level.
Wow, what an amazing story. Amazing for them, and I imagine very exciting for you.
Oh, how in any book would an East London bricklayer be sitting on the plinth on the edge of David, vocal training or just getting the harmony with Andrea Bocelli while he tests the reverb from his vocal cords in that museum? Under what scale or concept would us have ever been sitting together? So the people that I've actually been sitting next to, the people that I've actually have as clients, the doors that open up for me, I'll be honest with you, I go through those doors going, I can't believe this is happening. I'm still the little kid from East London that will enter somewhere with someone and go, oh, I can't believe I'm here. I work with, very well, again, I can only quote the ones that are very well known, but I've worked with the Branson family and foundation. I've worked with Elon Musk and Peter Diamandis, Elton John. I've done these things with people of that stature. And I'll sit there, have a cup of coffee while we're talking about something, and then all of a sudden go, oh, I can't believe I'm here. This is kind of cool. Oh, I can't believe I just picked up that award. I can't believe I just sat in that rocket. It just, the kind of stuff still makes me giggle. And I think that's part of the secret sauce, the fact that I don't take it for granted.
So why do you do what you do?
Because there's no other way I'd be in the room. Put it this way, I get paid to go around the planet and get into rooms I shouldn't be in. Why wouldn't you? I get to meet interesting people that have made their money in many, many different ways. And I get to hear their stories. I get to hear about what makes them tick. I get down into the core gut of these people. I'm like probably the ugliest therapist you'll ever have. But I get to meet these people and I go, so why is this important to you? Hey, you got billions over here, but you're telling me this is going to excite you? How does this make you tick? I get to understand all those minds. And from there, I get to do things and I get paid to do them. And I'm on planes and I'm traveling all over the planet on a regular basis. I don't have the chance to get bored. and I really enjoy my life because I'm paid to give affluent people interesting cocktail stories. And in the way of doing it, I get to have those cocktail stories. We've often joked, me and my wife have often joked that we expect one day the police to just knock on our door and just say stop. And we just go, well, why? And they go, because you're having too much fun. There's no way you should be allowed to do this and get paid for doing this. You know, it's just ridiculous. But I'm going to carry on doing it until I'm stopped.
And you've been able to integrate charity with your work.
Yeah, I try to, there's big dollars being spent. So anytime that I can get any of the doors greased by using the charitable component, now more than one person is benefiting from the experience I'm doing. So I will go out of my way to find a charitable component. If I can find I can go this way and it's going to cost $10, but I can go this way and it's going to cost 12, but this goes to a charity and the client gets a tax deduction, I'm going the 12 route, okay? Because now I know, like Bocelli, Cancer Research Foundation. You know, I was able to know that he's there and the money went to a donation to his charity. Elton John. Love Elton John's foundation. I absolutely love the guy. And Scott Hoffman and all the guys behind it, Scott Campbell, and all those guys are absolutely phenomenal people. But I'm thrilled that every year when we're doing this, the money that we're raising and all the monies that we're swapping hands with is going into that foundation to get rid of a disease that shouldn't exist. And so I will go out of my way. I did the event with Journey, where I got Journey involved to actually one of my clients go on stage and actually sing with the rock band Journey, or for Autism Speaks. So anytime that I can do it and incorporate a charitable component, even if it costs more, with the tax write-off, it becomes better. So I will always go the charitable route.
Speaking of Journey, tell us about that. I'm familiar with it, but I thought that was really fascinating where that started and where that ended up.
Yeah, that was quite colourful. So a friend of mine is on Necker Island with Richard Branson and a real quirky cat called Joe Polish. And Joe Polish, for many people that don't know, is he's a marketing genius, but he's also an incredibly well-connected individual. And I think still today is one of the largest contributors to the Branson Foundation and Virgin Unite. And apart from all of that, he's just a really good guy. And they're on this island, and Richard's doing what he's doing, what he usually does, and he's like, I can make this happen, I can do this. And he said he wants to sing with Jimmy Buffett. And my client, wasn't my client at the time, turned around and said, not really much interest in Jimmy Buffett, but hey, big fan of Journey. You can do something with Journey, big fan. So the next thing I know, they basically chatted within each other and said, get Sims involved. So I get introduced to the guy because he wanted to do something with Journey. So he says, I said to him, what do you want to do? I want to meet Journey. Oh, great, why is that? Oh, I really like that music. You know, it's been with me for many years and, you know, I really like it. Okay. So why is it important? Again, asking the whys. Why is it important for you? And you start to get the layers gone down. So it goes all the way down the rabbit hole. Turns out, when he was at college, sleeping on his mate's couch, he was the lead singer of a Journey cover band in college. Now he's gone through illnesses, divorces, life. You know, no one's life is smooth. You don't want a smooth life because it's the hiccups and the mistakes to make the best education, and they make you grow. So he's had a normal life of sweet and sour, you know, shits and giggles, all that kind of stuff. But through all of it, Journey had been the theme tune to his life. Now, very affluent, life's good for him. He wanted to kind of like conclude the chapter, the end of the movie, by meeting the people that have been his theme tune all the way through. So when you know that, and you know some of the things he went through, and how Journey actually helped him get over it, to just meet backstage and do a handshake as they came off concert, that weren't going to do it. So we phoned up Journey, spoke to him, said we got this guy, lifelong fan, done this, blah, 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 blah. So what we managed to do was we managed to get him on stage in I forgot, San Diego, Cricket Amphitheater it was called at the time. And he went on stage and sang with all the pyrotechnics, with the full band, lasers, everything, 4 tunes as the shortest term lead singer of the rock band Journey. Now, we found out that the drummer's son had autism. My client's brother's son had autism. So we wrapped it into Autism Speaks to raise awareness for autism while raising funds as well for my client to be able to get his ultimate fantasy. So he got what he wanted. We incorporated Autism Speaks, and we actually managed to do some good for more than just one person.
Triple win all the way around.
It was a home run. You couldn't help but sit there and watch him get his fantasy, knowing that people were going to be benefiting from the money as well. And I was there with some of the people from Autism Speaks. It was just, it was good. A lot of people think that I just spend rich people's money. Bingo, you're correct, smart person. But I try to get that money funneled as best as I possibly can into the areas I can.
So when he's out there singing with his band, something he's always wanted to do, something that he probably never dreamed that he would do, how does that make you feel?
I'm the guy that's got the keys to the candy store. It can make me quite often, feel a lot of inner pride and welling up kind of thing. But while they've got the interesting story that they're going to have for the rest of their life, I got 40 of those. And I can sit there in the evening with my family or with you, having breakfast in Hollywood, and just know that my life is giving people interesting stories. And now that I'm doing far more consulting, I've gone from not only spending people's money to actually teaching them how to get more of it themselves. It allows me to sleep really comfortably. And that is something that I think most people should want, to be able to just go to bed knowing that the bills are paid and that for that day you were unequivocally, big word, unapologetically you. And I think people should strive for that more now.
I want to talk about Bluefishing here. And this is much more than an autobiography of your life. It has valuable lessons in it. What are the big takeaways, and who's that book for?
So the book was actually for my kids. I had always been asked to write a book exposing what I did for the rich and famous and the powerful. And if I did that, I'd be probably dead before I finished this. So that could never happen. I then was doing a lot of speeches and presentations at entrepreneurial events like the Pentagon and Harvard and colleges and stuff. And then they actually came back to me and they said, whoa, hang on a minute. Rather than writing a book on what you do and who you do it for, why don't you write a book on how you do these things? Because it hasn't taken longer than 10 seconds for anyone watching to realize that I started life as a whiskey drinking biker from London. I'm still a whiskey drinking biker from London. Nothing's changed. I class myself as an educated man, but schools had nothing to do with that. And so all of a sudden I'm being given a platform, which is what a book is. It's a platform, just like these interviews and podcasts. There are platforms for you to get your opinion out. I was now able to have a platform where I could talk about getting you out of the way of you. Because 90% of the problems are you. So if we can get you to change and alter the way you view relationships, view reward, the difference between money, wealth, and wealth, if I could use this as a platform to get me out there, then I was all for it. So I wrote the book for my family, for my kids, to go, look, if a thick-headed British guy can do this, stop overcomplicating and just do it. Don't be frightened to fail. Don't be frightened to fall over. Revere when you do. Celebrate when you fall over, because there's nothing more empowering than getting back up and knowing that it was you that did it. And so I wanted to grab this by both hands. And it actually was a funny experience writing the book, because as we started writing the book, and she called herself an interpreter because she wanted to take what was up here and interpret it for other people to be able to understand. And so I liked her angle on that. But what she first of all started doing was writing a chapter and then writing the bullet points at the end of each chapter for the publishers to be aware of what we covered in that chapter. It wasn't supposed to be a part of the book, but by the time we got to the third chapter, they liked these bullet points and they went, well, hang on a minute, why don't we take those bullet points and at the end of every chapter, make it a cheat sheet and actually therefore make it a roadmap to what you need to be focusing on. So we went back and she readdressed the first bullet point list. And so we ended up doing it. So it was a great exercise for me to be able to get out there. And I go through things like branding, transparency, communication. It's a book that's really there to teach you the art of confidence, the art of getting things done, the art of removing obstacles by first of all, not even recognizing they're there. And so it's all about really getting things done in a very uncomplicated, raw, ugly manner, because we've prettied everything to the point that we no longer believe it. When it's ugly and raw, we believe it. It's earthy, it's realistic, it evokes an emotion in it. We watch movies now where buildings are flying through the air and Godzilla's just come out of your back pocket, and it doesn't bother us because we've seen it. We've become desensitized. But if we see something where someone falls over on the street, like you see these programs and they show you sports fails and you see a car actually crash, not a Hollywood car, but actually a proper crash, we go, oh, because it's raw and it's ugly and it's real. And we're actually searching for that more. This book is there to show you how to keep things raw and ugly, to show you how they can be more impactful and how they can be beneficial. And you can actually show someone not what your price tag is, but what your value is. And so it gave me the platform to be able to get everything out, put it in there. Hopefully my kids would read it and go, I can do this. Everything's possible. And if he can do it, I'm out of excuses. That's who I wrote it for. I did not expect it to get the following that it got. I did not expect people of your good stature to be asking me to come on these shows and to be talking about it. I really had no idea that it would actually explode in the way that it has. It's been a bit scary. I'm now literally traveling the world giving speeches and doing consulting, and I have my own private speakeasy communities where I can talk to people about how I did it, how you can do it, how to get you out of the way. So I'm really surprised that it took the foothold that it did.
Yeah, well, it's a brilliant book written by a utterly fascinating man. Yeah. And I know that there's an opportunity, we'll talk about it later, to get this cheat sheet without having to buy the book.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that. But how do we apply this cheat? Is this cheat sheet for life, for business?
We see, the funny thing is, where's the difference? One of the sayings that it may have been great then, but it just pisses me off now, is they say it's not personal, it's business. Okay? That's bullshit. That doesn't exist anymore. Everything's personal. Business is personal. Your brand is what you stand for. Your values says everything about you. That's why you buy an Apple, because you knew what Steve Jobs stood for. You went to Microsoft, you suddenly saw Bill Gates. You go and fly Virgin because you want to be as cool as Richard Branson. You buy a Tesla because you think Elon Musk is cool. All of the big Fortune 500 companies, Jeff Bezos, all of the big companies now have a figurehead. And you learn to relate to them. And if you resonate with what they stand for, you're more loyal to their product. You're more loyal to what they provide. So the divide between personal and business, that's gone. So the cheat sheet's there to show you how to actually live it. When you can define what you stand for to get the people that you want to get on board. You see, the problem is a lot of people, they sell a product. Nowadays, people build communities. You're a loyal advocate to Amazon. You're part of the community to Zappos. You're a follower with Apple. You're a fanatic with T-Mobile. You get involved in communities and groups and products and services which you feel resonate to you and what you stand for. So the divide between business and personal is non-existent. The cheat sheets are there for you to be able to learn how to actually stand up, how to find your pedestal, and how to actually be, and we'll use your word, as authentic as possible to resonate with those that need to follow you. Because if there's no one behind a brand, then Amazon's going to buy it and you're gone, you're bankrupt, you're history. We're losing the necessity for people to be involved in a transaction, which means we yearn for an emotional trigger when we're involved in that process. And that's why it's important to actually demonstrate to your clients that you care, that you are of value. They're not just buying a watch. They're going to be educated to what that watch stands for, how it was made, what the history of it is. And there's all these different ways of you actually evoking an emotion. And once you've evoked an emotion, then you've got a loyal following. Then you're building up a community and a tribe.
That's wonderful. And all from a document that came from an unintentional, unpublished piece of your book.
Hey, some of the best discoveries have come from mistakes, haven't they? And this wasn't supposed to be anything. It was literally just the bullet points, but now it gives you a guideline. It gives you a roadmap, and you can actually use it as correctionals. You can go, well, hang on a minute. I'm not doing that, so therefore I'm not going to. So if I just tweak this, hey, I'll get there without losing my knee scrape. So the cheat sheet is how to keep it really simple and how to create a more impactful, rewarding life, not only for you, but those you serve.
What do you stand for as a brand, as the Steve Sims brand?
Wow, I've never been asked that. What do I stand for? Well, I definitely stand for an unapologetic life. This is mine. I'm not going to live it for you. If I need to buy, as we were talking about it earlier, if I need to buy a new Ferrari to impress you, then I shouldn't know you. So I stand for a life that is friction-free. I don't want stress. I don't want to have the effort of trying to be someone I'm not. So I want to be I want to stand for transparency, authenticity, directness, and I want to be impossible to misunderstand. I think that's my key. When I'm gone and I'm 6 feet under with the worms, I want someone to just kind of like etch into the headstone. He was impossible to misunderstand. And if they can do that, then I'll be down there smiling.
Well said. Those are qualities that I think are worthy of all of us to aspire to.
Yeah, I think so.
You've certainly made a life for yourself, from this East London bricklayer to the pinnacle of your success, and I'm sure there's much more to come beyond that. What are those mental habits that really drove your success?
Well, there was two. The first one was ignorance. A lot of people are scared of things because everyone around us told them that they should be scared of something. So they go, well, I can't do that because, I spoke to Johnny and Johnny said that you can't do that. So I like Johnny, so he must be right. I was ignorant and I couldn't understand why it couldn't be done. So I'd go and try it and I'd fail. And I'd learn how it's not to be done. And then I'd try again and bingo, you find out how it can be done. So I found out that ignorance was one of my real secret sources in the first space, to be able to go forward and just go. And there's a great saying by a friend of mine, Ari Meisel, get going, then get good. So in the early stages of my career, trying to open up doors and trying to get things to work, I got a lot of no's. I got a lot of slammed doors. But you know something? I say no to you. It's not spilling blood. You're still going to pay the mortgage. It doesn't affect you physically. If I punch you in the head, that's not nice, But if I say no to you, you're still going to live. So I couldn't see why people were so scared with the no's. And I learned very early on that if I'm getting a no, I'm asking the wrong question or the wrong person. And I learned that really quickly. So it was the ignorance to keep going. And then as I grew and I started to make money, get into a circle of affluent people, I suddenly started to developing all the crutches that these people had of success. And when I say crutches, you've got a business, you better have a CRM. And that CRM better cost you $15,000 and better be more complicated than NASA. Just all of because that's what big businesses do. We had all of these things because you weren't big unless you had a big office and a lot of staff and a lot of overheads. And they're crutches of success. So then I actually adapted it to bring in simplicity. And so I question everything. And I question with just one statement. Everything I get involved in, is the juice worth the squeeze? Everything I do. New CRM comes out. And I go, well, okay, how much is that going to cost? $5,000. Okay. Is it worth it? If I buy something for $5,000, am I going to make 15? Is it going to pay for itself? Plus, I don't want it to pay for itself because if I didn't buy it, that would still be the same goal. Same net result, wouldn't it? I want it to amplify my life, my resources, my ability to do what the hell it is I want to do. If it doesn't, then why am I buying it? So I asked myself on that. So in the early stages, my stupidity and my ignorance was got me knocking on doors where I shouldn't have knocked on. As I got older, is my simplicity in my methodology to just question everything. It's the old emperor's clothes. I think you have the fable here of the emperor's clothes. Oh, he's naked. No, he's not. Only the most intelligent people will see him. Bottom line of it is, that happens way too often now. We get focused on the perception of success and wealth, and quite often look behind the curtain and suddenly see that they're struggling just like everybody else. So I go for the simplicity. Start with ignorance, end on simplicity.
Brilliant. And I love that quote that you said, first get going, then get good.
Yeah.
And I think that goes to really take imperfect action. You start with a mission, and then you have to take that next step, otherwise you're going to stall out. You're not going to go anywhere.
Yeah, I'm gonna backtrack and give you a very sad conversation that I had in Florence with the head of the Accademia Museum. So this was on the night of the client actually having dinner, okay? Andrea Bocelli was already in the building. We were already chatting with him. And I'm actually stood with the head of the Accademia, actually sat down with him overlooking David. Now, he'd already cashed a check. I already had the music. I had nothing to lose. And I never ask a question where someone can answer a no. I don't. I go up to someone and go, hey, my clients are coming in at 7 o'clock tonight, but I wondered, it's going to be pretty busy. Would you prefer they got here at 7:30 or 9:30? I'm not asking permission that they come in. I'm just asking what time you would prefer them to come in, okay? You get used to asking those kind of questions or positioning it like that. If I walked up to the Accademia and said, hey, I want you to shut down in the afternoon, how much is it going to cost? Then they would have hung up on me. So I never want to ask those kind of questions. I never want to ask that kind of way in that positioning. But I had him next to me. And now, if he told me that he thought I was a flake, if, he didn't want to do it, none of it affected me or offended me because I already had the building. I was already in. So I thought, now I can be open. So he stood there next to me and I look at the table at the feet of David and I went, what do you think of that? He's like, it is beautiful. I said, it absolutely is, isn't it? I said, who would have thought there would be a table of 6 at the feet of David? He went, no, I didn't think this was going to happen. I went, no. And Andrea's here as well. He went, yeah. I said, pretty impressive. I'm feeling cocksure of myself. I am feeling so good that I have done this. And I am getting all of the bows from the head of the Accademia. And I'm thinking, I'm something special here. because it's all because of me. And I said to him, I said, so, you didn't think this would happen? He went, no, I didn't. I said, but it's beautiful. You're happy it did, aren't you? And he went, I am. As I say, my ego's getting massaged now. I'm taller than bloody David. And I turned around to him and I said to him, so why has this never happened before? Now I'm expecting him to turn around to me and go, because no one had your connection, Steve. No one was as smooth as you as negotiate. I was expecting something to just give me the final rub, okay? And he turned around to me and grounded me within a second. He turned around to me and he went, no one's ever asked. And I was on cloud 12 before that, and I suddenly went through the floor. And I thought to myself, I'm here because I did the one thing no one has ever done before. I asked if it could be done. I asked the doors to be open. I asked to have the museum. And it suddenly guided me that most things are not achieved now because we're too scared to ask. How many of us have those, and we'll air quote them, friends that we turn around and we say, oh, I'm thinking of starting my new business. And they suddenly jump up and they go, Jay, you're going to lose your ass there, mate. That is never going to happen. You are never going to make money of that. You shouldn't be doing that, fella. And then what stupid decision do you do? By listening to them. Most of those people in your circle that have been friends since you were at school that you listen to are still flipping burgers or working down at the local cashier or they have service in your car. They're challenging you because they don't want you to do it. Because if you do, what does it validate? It validates that you can and they can't. So they want to keep you down. So they tell you those kind of things. Have you ever heard the old story about the bucket of crabs? You ever seen that? Apparently, if you shove a load of crabs in a bucket, they will all claw on each other to get up to the top. And then as soon as one of them starts to get out, they will actually grab them and physically pull them back in. Because they will try to assist you until the point where you're actually going to achieve, and they'll pull you back in.
The crab mentality.
Yep, it's a bucket of crabs. So there's an old saying, you may have crabs in your circle of friends. There are those that don't want you to be successful. Now, I love being challenged. I've got some great friends that I go, I'm thinking of doing this. And I'll turn around to me and I go, why do you think you can? What will it achieve? What will be the end goal? What will it do to your life? What will it do to your income? What is your liability? Now, those are friends you want because they're challenging you. They're challenging you to make sure you've actually thought it through. And there will be moments when you go, do you know, I hadn't thought of that, Jay. And those will be the friends that go, well, go and speak to Will. Will may be able to kind of tell you a bit more. The idea's still there. This may still be a go, but find out from someone that's tried something similar to see what problems he had. And that's where you're challenged. That's good. A challenging friend is a great ally to have. But the naysayer is the one that needs to be kicked to the curb. Go out with them on a Friday night to tell dirty jokes and drink beer, but they're no longer part of your circle of influence. And that's one of the things I've noticed, that there's too many people out there that want to kind of like sit around the campfire and go, no, you can't do it. Find a different campfire.
Yeah, that's so true. You really need to surround yourself with like-minded people, positive, not yes men, but people who will challenge you in a healthy way, like you said.
Absolutely, because you can't grow. They say the combination of the 5 people you hang around with. Well, if you look at your closest friends and they're dicks, that's what you are, So you've got to be able to change it. And you can move in a different sandpits. That's one of the other things. Don't think to yourself, just because I'm uneducated here, that I can't go and play around with rocket scientists. Go and try it. The smartest man in the room is the one that entered as the dumbest, because they've got the most to grow from. They've got the most to learn. So if you are the smartest person in the room, find a different room. If you're the dumbest person in the room, get comfy.
Your presence with people and that talent you have makes you a brilliant observer of life and observer of people. And that makes you a great coach, consultant, the things you're doing right now. But I'm curious, who do you learn from now?
Everyone. I'm a great believer that I listen quick and I ignore slow. So I have had some of the greatest conversations that have helped me grow in business and in life, and we've already talked about how they're very similar as one, from some of the most abstract places. You know, I've ended, there was a party at the Beverly Wilshire Hotel a while back, and I turned up and I was having a quick conversation with the valet guy at the front, and he was talking about billboards and marketing and about how he liked to draw and advertise and stuff like that. I went into the party. The party was pretty bored. I came back outside, brought a coffee, and me and the guy sat on the corner, and I was just asking him different questions about, well, what adverts do you like? Why have they made such an impact for you? What do you watch on TV? I got more out of that guy than I did out of the party I was in. So search for those people that can help you grow. Search for those allies. Search for those challenging contexts to your idea. But I listen to many, many people. And those people that look after me, I then try to reward them. And there's a lot of people that I've got as friends that are far smarter than me in that one area. And I may be of no value to them, but because of my relationship with them, I will help one of their friends because I respect the relationship. So always be there to be of value within a relationship. Bottom line of it is, if there's no value in a relationship on a two-way street, that relationship's got death written on it. So be of value. So I have friends that I can go to and go, I'm looking at my second book now. How should I portray, or what would you give me? And they will do something and help me. And then it's a case of, right, great, thank you very much. When they need something, or when they've had someone come to them that's not their wheelhouse, they can go, contact Steve. And I'll be like, oh, friend of Jay, friend of mine. How can I help you? You've got to be prepared to repay that advice. So I have a lot of good friends that I'm thrilled to call mentors. They're not all rich, but they're all smart and exceptional in that one area.
Great advice. What's the best advice you've ever received?
Yeah, that's me dad. My dad, bigger, thicker version of me, if that's possible. We were walking down London once, and he was smoking his 200th cigarette of the morning. He'd have one lit up ready to go. He was that kind of fella. And we're just walking down there. I was about 15 years old. I don't even know what we were walking to. I don't understand. I don't remember any of that. But he's smoking away, and he's looking forward, and we're walking forward. And he reaches his hand out and he puts it on my shoulder as we're walking. And I'm like this, what's he going to say? And within cigarette puffs, he just keeps looking forward. And he went, son, didn't even look at me. He went, son, no one ever drowned by falling in the water. They drown by staying there. Puts the cigarette back in his mouth, takes his hand off my shoulder, carries on walking. Now I'm 15 years old and I'm like, what the hell was that? More colourful terms. And I had stopped. And I was just like, where did that come from? What was that about? Caught up with him, carried. We never spoke about that. Never spoke about that statement at all. And it must have been maybe about 8 years later that it suddenly came to me that it was my choice as to whether or not I stay in the water. And so now, that's my greatest piece of advice. No one drowned by falling in the water. They drown by staying there. And you have the choice as to whether or not you get up and get out. And anytime that anything's kind of like getting a bit rough for me, I'm thinking to myself, well, I don't have to stay here. I have a choice. And so that's kind of grown with me. And I remember growing up, very poor, never had any money, never had takeaway food until I was about 18 or 19 years old. We never had that. Never went out to fancy restaurants. Every now and then we'd go out to like a Sunday pub, but that'd be the highlight of the month or the quarter. And I remember thinking how poor I was, only to realize in my mid-20s how wealthy I was. because I knew what it was like to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and work. I knew what it was like to be a man of your word. I knew what it was like to actually get shit done, and then to trust yourself and rely on yourself, and to build up relationships where if I said to you, I'm going to do this Tuesday at 4 o'clock, you could go to bed and you knew that you could wake up Tuesday at 4:15 and it had been done 15 minutes prior. You know, knowing how to grow up like that, I realized how valuable these lessons were, and in fact, how rich my childhood had been. But that was the single statement that still I remember to this day. And I think it's a beauty.
Of course, it's great advice. We often undervalue that advice that our parents give us when we're younger, and then later on we realize just how true it is.
Yeah, well, that's the maturity is a bitch, isn't it? You know, you wish you had the maturity of us 50s when we were 20. You know, but it's experience. It's experience that, well, I think someone said to me before, experience is something you get 2 seconds after you needed it most. So that's another, I think that was a Joe Polish quote, but that's one that I always love.
How true.
Yeah.
So what are the most important values that you hope to instill in your kids?
Be the man and the woman that you tell people you are. I want us to get back to some of the, for want of a better word, the old school values. As I say, if I tell you it's going to be done, it's going to be done. If I've misquoted you on the price, eat it. Because if I told you it was going to cost you $10, I'm not going to come back to you and tell you owe me another $2. I'm going to eat it because I gave you my word. So I want people to realize that that word is everything. Stand up for what you believe in. Protect people that are being oppressed and bullied. There's no place for bullying in this world. Every fight I was in as a kid was because someone was being bullied. Not because I cared about the kid that was being bullied. Most of the times when I'd dive in fist flying, I didn't even know the person. But if there's 4 kids picking on one kid, then those 4 kids are going down. And I didn't win all my fights, but you know, I won more than I lost. But I always want my kids to be the people that will be the people they promise to be, and they won't allow Instagram to deflect or impose a perception on who they should be. Be who you are and be proud of it.
Right on. You are the Wizard of Oz.
Without the cape.
So where can we find more about you? Social, website?
Well, there's a whole bunch of places. The easiest one is to text the word Ugly Works, it's one word, Ugly Works, to 345345. That'll get you into our platform there. It'll also get you the PDF of the cheat sheet that you mentioned earlier. So you'll get that for free. You can go to stevedsims.com. There's only one M in Sims, stevedsims.com. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook under Steve D. Sims. But if you jump onto either the website of Steve D. Sims or you text Ugly Works to 345345, both of those avenues will get you a really cool video, because I shot it, called the Chug Test, and it'll get you the PDF on the cheat sheet.
Brilliant. Looking forward to that. Steve, really appreciate you sitting down with me here. I know we could talk for hours.
Yeah.
Here or over whiskey. Your favorite libation?
Yeah, I noticed this is water, so you don't know me that well enough, so we should change that next time.
For sure, your favorite brand.
There you go.
Steve, thank you so much.
Cheers, pal. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Big thanks to my special guest, Steve Sims. Be sure to connect with him at Steve D. Sims on social and at stevedsims.com to learn more about his programs. Want to meet more incredible guests? Then don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a thing. And let me know what you think in the comments. Your feedback is always welcome. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jay Menez, and I'll see you on the next episode of Hollywood Real.